Christianity first arrived in China during the Tang Dynasty in the year 635. This is recorded in the Nestorian stele, which is housed currently in the Beilin Boguguan in the Beilin Museum in Xi'an. Christianity was then known as the religion of light, Jingjiao. In the former Portuguese colony of Macau, you can find many other historical churches, including Da Sanba, the ruins of St. Paul's Cathedral, St. Dominic's Cathedral within Senado Square, the Chapel of Our Lady Penha, Xiwangyang Shengtang, St. Anthony's Cathedral, Sheng Andoni Tang, St. Michael's Chapel and Cemetery, Sheng Weiji Fanchang, and St. Joseph's Seminary and Church, where you can find the humerus bone of St. Francis Xavier, who was a Spanish missionary who died off the coast of Guangdong Province in Shangchuan Island as the first Jesuit priest to try to gain access to mainland China. You can also hike up to the Gia Fortress, Dongwangyang Paotai, to see the cannons, chapel, and the lighthouse, and views of the city. There are even frescoes inside the chapel, which you can still view. The Cathedral of the Diocese of Macau is where you can find the Cathedral of the Nativity of Our Lady. This is St. Lawrence Cathedral, and in the old Protestant cemetery, you can find Robert Morrison's grave and chapel. He produced one of the earliest dictionaries of the Chinese language and compiled the first Chinese translation of the Bible. This is Our Lady of Carmel in the southern island of Taipa, and Our Lady of Sorrows Church on the eastern point of Luhuan, Cologne, built by the Italian priest to take care of those living in leprosy colony. In Zhaoqing, in Guangdong Province, Matteo Ricci came in 1583 and established the site of mainland China's first Catholic church. Now it is the site of Chongxi Ta. In Zhaoqing, Ricci stayed for 6 years and worked on a Portuguese-Chinese dictionary and also the first map of the Chinese world. One of the grandest Catholic churches in all of southern China is located here in Guangzhou and is called Sacred Heart Cathedral on Ida Lu. You can still find many Africans who worship at Mass here. On Shamian Island, a foreign concession area with well-preserved Western architecture, you can find a local Protestant and a Catholic church. In Tianhe District, there is another Protestant Christian church. And in Henantang, you can find the Chinese-style architecture of this Christian church. Guangzhou was one of the only areas where foreigners were allowed to trade in China before treaty ports were opened. There is a cemetery of missionaries, sailors, and traders in a rural plot of land overlooking the Pearl River. You can find this at Anxinjie 168. In Shenzhen, located next to Baoan Park on Liuxian Yilu, you can find a modern and ornate Catholic church. It is even replete with a modern-style bell. Next, located in Shangmeilin, you can find a large Christian church even conducting services in local dialects like Hakka and Cantonese. This is the old church in the neighborhood of Baishizhou and Sheng Andoni, St. Anthony's, in the Xiangmi area. In rural Guangdong and Kaiping, the site of the Diaolo, you can find a Christian church there. In the coastal city of Zhanjiang, you can find Fuyintang and also another Catholic church built by the French, not far from the former French Army command post and museum site. In Guangxi Province, on the Old Town Street, you can find a Christian church, and here in Gongyuanlu, near other former consulate sites, is a Catholic church. From Beihai, you can take a ferry to Weizhoudao and find in the center the prominent French Catholic Gothic church, which is actually made of coral rocks. It's in a remote location, so it's relatively untouched to development. There's also another Catholic church on the island, but visited far less than the main one. Here's a Christian church in the city of Haikou, on the northern part of the island and province of Hainan. There's also a Catholic church here, located at number 20, Meiyuanlu. Here in Yunnan Province, you can find the Three Self-Patriotic Movement headquarters located in the church in Kunming. In the old town of Dali, here you can find a rural Catholic church, which combines many different traditional Chinese architecture elements in its building. Near the main part of the old town, you can also find a Protestant bookstore and church. Here's a church in Changsha, in Hunan Province, and here's a rural church located near the Tulou, the earthen buildings, in the province of Fujian. In Quanzhou, located on the Maritime Silk Road, here we can see Huaxiang Catholic Church. Just outside of Xiamen, you can take a boat to Gulangyu, which has many well-preserved sites of Western residences, consulates, and churches. Moving north to Zhejiang Province is another treaty port in Ningbo. Here you can see in Tianyi Guangchang, in the Tianyi Plaza, a large prominent Catholic church. Near the Old Bund area, Lao Waitan, there's also another Catholic church built by French missionaries along the water. Hangzhou is the provincial capital of Zhejiang, and here we can find the Catholic church called the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception. Nearby is a Christian church located on Yesu Tangnong, Jesus Lane. Just behind here is a John Leighton Stewart former residence, who was the U.S. ambassador to China and also the former president of Yenching University. This is the mega church of Chongyi Tang, where Franklin Graham once preached, and another Christian church with English services nearby Nanzong Yujie called Gulou Tang. Here is Nanjing Union Theological Seminary, Jinling Xiehe Shen Shuiyuan, where as a visitor the guard wouldn't let me in, but once I made a friend with a student outside of the gate, he escorted me in, guided me around, and then escorted me back out of the campus. Nearby, the Olympica Tiyu Zhongxin, or the Olympic Sports Park, is this modern and circular church called Shengxun Tang. Here on Mocholu is a historical Christian church built during the Republican era of China when Nanjing was the capital city. This is a Seventh-day Adventist church called Anxi Tiancheng Tang. And here is a Cathedral of Immaculate Conception at Shigulu, which is the site of the Archdiocese of Nanjing in this provincial capital of Jiangsu. Here on the campus of Nanjing University is a Pearl Buck Museum, Sai Zhenzhu, whose husband was actually a professor of agriculture here. Pearl Buck was a daughter of Presbyterian missionaries, and you may enter this museum if you ask the Campus History Museum's caretaker. Zhenjiang is the site of the megachurch Xuande Tang, which unsuspectingly is the site of Hudson Taylor's grave marker. It was also awaiting a memorial tower to be built. Dai Desheng Hudson Taylor was the founder of the China Inland Mission, later known as OMF, Overseas Missionary Fellowship. This is Fuyin Tang, which previously had the gravestone until it was transferred to Xuande Tang. And here is a former residence of Pearl Buck, Sai Zhenzhu, who was the author of the book The Good Earth. In Yangzhou, the site of the Jinghang Yunhe, the Grand Canal, you can find Shenzai Tang, which is Emmanuel Church, located just northwest from the Marco Polo Memorial Hall. Just outside the gates of Suzhou University, which was founded by American missionaries, here you can find St. John's Christian Church. This is Shishan Jidu Jiaotang, and you can climb the stairs to the bell tower up top. In the neighboring city of Wuxi, you can find the Catholic Church and see its original building, as well as an additional church construct on the side. There's even a residence where Catholic nuns reside, and you can still attend Mass here today. The Three Self-Christian Church,三自爱国教会, is located on Zhongshanlu in the heart of downtown Wuxi. It is decorated here for Christmas, and they even have a Christian cultural exhibit about the history of Christianity in China. In Wuxi International Church, they have services in English that cater to the African international student population of Jiangnan University. Rongxiang Christian Church is located within the cultural district area of Rongxiang. There's also a Huazhuang Catholic Church within Gonghu Shidi Gongyuan, and there's even a Seventh-day Adventist church called Dongting Xiantang. Here is a chapel in Moganshan, which was a summer resort site for expats and missionaries just outside of Shanghai. In the Xujiahui area of Shanghai, you can find remnants of the Jesuit community here, which can still be seen today, such as the St. Ignatius Catholic Cathedral, which is one of the most well-known cathedrals in all of Shanghai. Next door is a library which houses exhibits on Catholic history in Shanghai. And to the other side is the Weather Observatory, which you can make an appointment for at the Tourist Information Store, and they will take you on a guided tour and show you contributions of people like Matteo Ricci and Xu Guangqi, whose original paintings seen here are actually housed in the University of San Francisco. Nearby is the Xu Guangqi Memorial Park, which contains his grave and an exhibit. Xu Guangqi was a colleague of Matteo Ricci and is known for translating works like Euclid's Elements into Chinese. Nearby is a school founded by the Chinese Jesuit and educator Ma Xiangbo, and here you can find a seminary, which is actually now converted into a government building. Here is the East China University of Politics and Law, Huadong Zhengfa Daxue, which is the site of the historically Christian university called St. John's University. This is St. Joseph's on Sichuan Nanlu, and this is Dongjiadu, under construction at the time. Here is St. Nicholas Russian Orthodox on Gaolanlu, which is now a coffee shop. Here is Yangsi Catholic Church in Pudong on Yuntailu. And here in the Thames town, on the outskirts of Shanghai, is a model church where married couples take wedding shots. Here is Shanghai Evangelical Free Church, which actually has services in Cantonese. Here is Huayantang, the Christian church located on Shanxi Nanlu. Here is Sheng Sanyi Tang, the Holy Trinity Church, which has a bookstore and publishing house around the corner, which is open and sells Christian literature and Bibles. Here is Pu'an Tang, which is actually shaped like a Noah's Ark. Here on Dolunlu, Wenhua Mingrenjie, you can see Hongde Tang. And here is Qiujiawan, one of the oldest Catholic churches in the Songjiang district, which was built in 1658 by an Italian Jesuit missionary. This is the Xian Tang, Cathedral, built by the Hungarian architect Laszlo Hudek. It is one of the very few examples of Byzantine architecture found within mainland China. There's also a gravesite belonging to the church, which now sits within the Shanghai Zoo across the street. In the outskirts of Sheshan, there is a monastery and also a major Catholic pilgrimage site in the Sheshan Basilica, located at the top of the mountain. On the way up to the mountain, you can also view the images of Jesus on his way to the crucifixion in the Way of Sorrow. The mountain also has a weather observatory built by French Jesuits, and you can still access this museum today. In the touristy water town of Zhujiajiao, here you can find a splendid Catholic church that serves more of its rural parishioners. You can access this church by boat or by walking through the village's residences. Down one of the alleys just outside the old town of Qibao, here you can also find the local Catholic church. Notice that the entrance to the Catholic church is guarded by 2 Chinese-style lions and also a statue of Jesus. In the rural Qingpu district, Tailaiqiao Church, which was built in 1865, sits along a river and can be accessed by riding a bike along the fields. Here in Pudong, you can find Tangzhen Tianzhutang, Our Lady of Lourdes Church, which represents the peak of Shanghai's church building in the 19th century. It is an important pilgrimage site and is also praised as a paragon of one of the Gothic churches in Shanghai. Here you can find the brick and wood structure of Chuansha Tianzhutang, Sacred Heart of Jesus Church, which was originally built in 1872. On Pudong Dadao, you can find Fujia Tianzhutang, Our Lady of Rosary, Meigui Shengmutang, which is the third pilgrimage site in Shanghai after the Sheshan Basilica and Our Lady of Lourdes Church in Tangzhen. In Beijing, right next to the Jianguomen subway station, you can find the ancient observatory Guguan Xiangtai, where Jesuit astronomical instruments were stored and collected. In the Beijing Administrative College, Beijing Xingzheng Xueyuan, the cemetery here holds prominent Jesuits such as Matteo Ricci, Ferdinand Verbiest, and Johann Adam Schauvenbell. At the north end of the Wangfujing Commercial Street Shopping District, here you can find the Catholic Church colloquially known as Dongtang. The Xishiku Cathedral, colloquially known as Beitang, the North Cathedral, is located on land from the Kangxi Emperor, which was given to the Jesuits. Near Xizhimen, you can find Xitang, the West Church. And finally, Nantang, the South Cathedral, is one of the oldest Catholic churches in Beijing and has a statue of Matteo Ricci out in front. This is Nangangzi Catholic Church, located in the Chongwen district on Yongshengxiang. This is Yanqing Theological Seminary, the Three Self-Patriarchate Movement Protestant Seminary, and here is the Beijing Catholic Seminary, which are both located in Haidianqu. To the south of Beijing in Hebei Province is Tianjin. Here you can find the Xikai Catholic Cathedral in downtown Tianjin in the former French concession. Tianjin's status as a port city after the Second Opium War meant many foreign buildings were built here, such as in the Xiaobailou or Wudadao area. On the banks of the river you can find Wanghailou, which is a site of a dispute between Western missionaries and the late Qing government. Here is the Anglican church, Shenggonghui, located within the former British concession. And to the south of the ancient culture district, you can find here a Catholic church. Here in Qingdao, in Shandong Province, you can find St. Michael's Church, the prominent Catholic church in the plaza nearby Zhongshanlu. Around the former consulate area on Jiangsu Lu, you can find the Christian church built by Germans. Another remnant of the German colonial period in Qingdao is St. Paul's Church, just north of Guanxiangshan. One of the main Christian churches in Yantai is located on Shengli Lu. Here is Qishan Tang. Near the waterfront, you can find the local Catholic church in Zhifuqu, and nearby here, you can find the former site of the YMCA. Within Yantaishan, you will find former residences, consulates, and church buildings, like this Union Church site. In Weifang, nearby the Renmin Yiyuan, you can find Ledao Yuan, the Weixian internment camp for prisoners of war during World War II. This is the site where Eric Liddell, the missionary and the gold medalist runner, passed away. There's a statue and a museum commemorating his life, as well as a history of the internment camp. To the northern part of Taipei is the Danshui district, where the Presbyterian missionary Reverend George Mackey built this church. Nearby the waterfront are other sites of cultural interest, including a foreign cemetery where missionaries, diplomats, and traders are buried. Here is St. John's Cathedral in Hong Kong, located in downtown Central among the skyscrapers, Xingyekhan Ju Gaotang. Here is St. Teresa's Church, Xingdek Laksat, near Prince Edward Station. Here is Bethany, a former sanatorium and site for medical rest for French missionaries. It is now the School of Hong Kong Academy for Performing Arts, but one can still buy tickets to take a guided tour inside. This is St. Mary's, the Episcopal Church in Causeway Bay. Here is Church of Christ, Hapyat Tong. Here is Mui Gui Tong, near the Museum of History. And here in the fishing village of Dai'o on Lantau Island, you can find the local Catholic church. Here is Doufengshan, a cemetery and a Christian center with a large cross and a chapel, which you can hike to on the mountaintop. Here is Holy Cross Catholic Cemetery at Chaiwan with views of the sea. And finally, we come to the terraced hillside Christian cemetery of Pokfulam.